Christine, welcome back to University of Miami twice in 10 days.
Oh my gosh, it's amazing. Thank you, Greg. I'm so excited to be here.
So entrepreneur, strategist, impact producer, recovering C-suite executive?
Recovering C-suite executive, still recovering.
And now law professor?
Oh my God, that is insane. Thanks to you. Adjunct, but yes, it's been amazing. And I've been so inspired by the students.
So let's hit on that first. First of all, our journey and your journey here with the University of Miami, Ivy Kagan Bierman.
Started right here.
Right here, 2 years ago.
Yeah.
You came as a keynote at this conference.
I did.
Looked a little smaller then, but we keep
grown.
growing it, right?
It's so amazing. Congratulations.
Well, due to people like yourself. I mean, truly.
Yeah.
And last year you came back and taught a module for a class on inclusive leadership.
Yeah.
And that turned into you joining our advisory board. We had asked, we were so honored that you said yes. And then adjunct faculty, entertainment, sports, and social impact.
And social impact, yeah.
Talk about the course and...
Oh, it's been great. So in the journey, right, we just keep building and building and building. And it's always been a passion of mine to kind of bring together all these different worlds, right? And as a very creative business person who had to read 800 million contracts and agreements all the time, we often found that, when I would encounter lawyers, they were doing their job in mitigating risk, right? And that's what lawyers are supposed to do. And we appreciate that because then it gives us stability, it gives us safety, it gives us the ability to do great things. At the same time, when you're in these new innovative spaces, which sports and entertainment and technology and creators and art and all of this, I mean, really the job is to create new things. And so when you create new things, there's not precedent. And so how do you then progress and be able to protect entities and athletes and artists, but at the same time create innovation, create revenue, create profit, create opportunity, right? And then all the while create social impact. And social impact is at the center of so much, especially with this generation of leaders. And we talked about it a little bit at our advisory board meeting. It's so critical. It's a decision maker for so many of them when it comes to the law school they choose, to the jobs they choose, to the industries they choose. And so if we can show them how social impact interacts with all of these different aspects of not only the law, but their job, then I think that we could have that much more brilliance in the work we do.
Yeah, I love that because I think particularly when I'm talking to prospective law students, they think everything is you have to pick one thing, right? And that's what I'm going to do. And the idea of you can't combine social impact or social justice and anything that's making money or business or right.
I love making money, but I love social impact, right? Yes.
And they are synergistic, especially as the industry continues to grow and profits go up. There's these opportunities to create foundations, to create ways to impact and really lift up the next generation or lift up those that don't have the opportunities, right?
Yeah.
And so talk a little bit about the students and the class and what was your what were you expecting going in and then let's talk about the post.
Right. What you bought or what you got. Look, first of all, I was so nervous going in, right? So, and we know my non-traditional journey, which I was pre-med and I don't have a business degree and I don't have a law degree. And so we talked about this a lot in that I was very intimidated. I was like, okay, here I'm going to come in and teach law students. What am I? And I remember my first draft of my syllabus, you're like, yeah, don't worry about that part. we got the legal part covered. And so when I let go of that, which it's so crazy how my worlds all come together when I started just being unapologetically me, right? And bringing to the table my experiences but then showing them how the critical aspects of agreements or of institutionalization of ideologies or criteria or all of these different things played a role in these actual experiences that they are going to encounter, then it just started to flow. And it really became this beautiful amalgamation of, ideologies and understanding social impact in a way that we have to know where it started. We have to have a fundamental language that we all understand. And then from there, once you understand the basis and the foundation and the ideologies, and then you understand how that they can be molded into these different ways that we walk in the world, then the students really started to see the connection in the work that they're doing and the things that they're studying. But then it had to be grounded within themselves. And so part of the class was them truly standing in their brilliance and in their in everything that is beautiful about them, and standing strong in that. Because in this work, whether you are the one who is trying to make the social impact, whether you are the lawyer arguing the case, whether you're whatever it is that you're doing, if you aren't so grounded in who you are and what you believe, then you can stray in all different ways, and you're less powerful. People will see you as less powerful because you waver, right? And so and that doesn't mean that you don't listen to other points of view, and that doesn't mean that you don't, relentlessly reinvent yourself and change. But it also means that when you know exactly the why and your why, then you can execute these things more flawlessly. And that was probably the biggest and most pleasant surprise, I think, of the class. We studied amazing works like The Revolt of the Black Athlete, and we studied 13th by Ava DuVernay, and we looked at the epic volleyball game that happened in Nebraska and with Omaha, and how it was record-breaking. And when we thought about the revenue generated, they netted $1.4 million on women's volleyball, right? So these epic examples of social impact through both for-profit and revenue, but then also through ideology and your typical what people think social impact is, and how it all comes together and is wrapped around business, sports, entertainment, and law it was beautiful.
And I think that's the thing is so many let's just take women's sports for you were president, you've worked in that space, you were president, COO of the LA Sparks, and
won a chip.
You did, but people want to say, the revenues aren't there. It's like Becca Rue in our women's sports class, who runs the U.S. Women's National Soccer Team Players Association, came in the first day of the first class we had 2 years ago, and I'll never forget the line that she said, and she was like, "Those are outputs. We don't talk about outputs unless we talk about the inputs. And if you don't invest,
right,
then what do you expect? Any other business? It's if you don't put money into it,
right,
then you're not going to make money.
Right.
But are we seeing a shift in women's sports? We just saw what happened Monday night, 12.2 on the ratings for those two NCAA, amazing.
Yes, more than a handful. I think it was MLB and
NBA finals.
NBA finals.
Yeah.
Like the ratings were crazy, right? And you're right. It is the investment. It's the investment in the marketing. It's the investment in the sponsorship deals. And you see a lot of it has been athlete led, right? So it's taken disruption of the system and these athletes to be able to be educated and understand their power and their brand, and then they can lead these brands along with them. You're welcome brands, right? And then the teams get to come too, and then the sport gets to come. Now, I think that while it's working in some situations, we really have to look at the entire ecosystem. What type of media coverage are we getting? My brilliant friend LaChana Robinson has been a brilliant broadcaster in women's sports, and she posted something the other day that was like, for all the young ladies who played college ball in front of one person in a small gym somewhere, this is for you, right? Because for years and years and years, we haven't had the facilities, we haven't had the coverage, no matter what the ratings are, we haven't had that, and we certainly haven't had the marketing dollars invested in us. And so now that people are seeing that there is money in this, I saw a stat around the betting on that game between Caitlin and Angel, and the betting was ridiculously high, right? So even people who may not even enjoy the sport are understanding its profitability. And so when you think about it that way, hopefully people will start to awaken and understand that their ideologies about what women should and shouldn't be doing are ridiculous, and that there is not only profit to be made, but impact to be had.
Well, going back to your class, I think something that was so amazing, and this just happened by chance, your class was all women, right?
Randomly all women. We did not plan that. We welcome men. Yeah. We enjoy them, and anyone who identifies as anything we would have loved, but it happened to be all women.
And you were talking earlier, there was something really amazing you did while teaching this class, in that you had an icebreaker at the start of each day, and there was something that I saw when I was in that space of empowerment, right? You were showing them vulnerability at times. You were showing them a role model of a strong woman who's really dominated this industry. and showed them that there is a pathway, right? And I think that is so important, and I think that's what we try to do so much in this program is bring amazing executives, professionals like yourself, like some of the other people on the board, because look, I know we're not going to change the industry right here in Coral Gables, but I'm a believer that ripples make waves, and we got to start somewhere. So where do you think we need to go? I mean, this is a loaded question, but I mean, as much as we want to say we've made progress, even in terms of gender equity, there's a long way to go.
A long way to go. Thank you. I appreciate all that, and it still is surreal to me, the blessings and opportunities that I've had. And I'm still learning. Living unapologetically was a reminder to me to stop asking for permission, to stop apologizing, to stop conforming just because that's what you're supposed to do, right? And it took me a long time to get there. As a Black woman in a white male, heterosexual dominated world, and especially these industries, I was your perfect corporate little Black Barbie for the longest time, and it didn't matter, right? It didn't matter, and all I was able to make change, but for me, it quickly became bite-sized change. It became change that I wish would have been deeper and gone faster and been more sustainable. And a lot of that was because I was conforming to norms on systems that were never built for me, much less the people whom are working in those systems, the talent, the athletes, the women. And so as I continue to, accomplish things in life, I really work hard. I've noticed that I am more successful when I'm myself, when I can wear some crazy animal print pants and have my big curly hair anywhere I want it, and stand in my strength, and then truly help other women, since that's the topic right now, and some men, right? But help people understand that that's the special sauce, that's the magic, right? And we hear this a lot, and there's a lot of cliches out there, but I can't stress it enough, because when you're trying to conform or you're dimming, you're not taking chances. You're not creating anything that's brilliant and new. You're just doing things as they've been done. And I'm such a firm believer that the best things come when you don't know what the hell you're doing and you don't know the path to get there, because then you're like, oh wait, there was this over here, we could add that in. So I think really what I've learned in the last few years is, how do leaders create those safe spaces? And the first part of it is that we have to model it, right? So those of us that are blessed and honored and have earned these titles and these positions, we have to model it. If we're not doing it, then how can we expect people to show up as their authentic selves? If we're not creating safe spaces for them to be able to potentially fail or potentially take a risk or all of those things, then we're failing them, and we're not giving them the true blueprint to bring the most magical thing to our organizations. And so being able to stand up, being able to be vulnerable, being able to tell them that, it's really hard for me to stand and sit here and tell someone I feel beautiful today, because that gets judged, right? But it doesn't mean I don't feel every other person in the world is beautiful. I actually find so much beauty in each person. But women are constantly told, no, you can't be too beautiful. You can't be too risky. And even coming here today, I was like, oh my God, what am I going to wear at Special Lawyers? And I was like, wait a minute, this is Esau. This is Esau. And so to your other question, how do we continue to make change? We do what we're doing, right? We show people that there are so many different ways to do this. And you don't have to be a law professor to be able to show people how law can affect entertainment and sports and social impact. You don't have to be an MBA. You don't have to do all of these things. You have to live. You have to experience, you have to be open to learn, and most importantly, you have to have the bigger picture in sight. And I think that's what you've created in this program. That's this amalgamation of just different brilliant minds thinking about all the different aspects. And there are very, very few people that say, but no, that's not how it's done. That's not what we've always done. It's actually more beneficial when people are like, oh, let's do something that's never done, right? And that's what you're building.
That's the fun stuff.
That's the fun stuff. And that's what we're building. That's what 100%. You're building.
We, as a,
We are, yeah.
And going back, you're an impact producer as well. I mean, and that's something that's, I think you've done some amazing work. And the idea of using a platform, right, to impact, media is in a weird place right now, but at the same time, we know that both athletes and the entertainment industry has this ability to spread a message, right? And to create awareness.
Yeah.
So how have you used your platform to try to effectuate change in areas that are near and dear to your heart?
Yeah, it all comes back to emotional connection, right? That's what we as humans, like we can have all the beautiful AI in the world, but emotional connection is what everybody is trying to find. And that's what motivates people, right? That's what motivates people to buy things because they are inspired or they feel good about it or they feel like they'll look good in it or, whatever it is. Or, if there's a cause someone needs to take up, it's an emotional connection. Once you see it, you can't unsee it, right? And so that's the power of storytelling and that's the power of platform. And that's what both athletes and creators and artists have. So as an impact producer, we have this ability to be able to connect emotionally on a human level to be able to truly affect change. And look, storytelling in itself makes an impact, just telling a story, period. But if you also are telling a story and there is a call to action at the end of that story, changing legislation, raising money, raising awareness, actually driving change as a result. My documentary that I had the honor to be a part of, one of them anyway, it's called I'm Not Your Hero, and it tackles the mental health toll on Black doctors, and in this case Black female doctors, how we hold them on this pedestal but yet we don't give them the support and we don't see the human side of them. And there's this alarming statistic that we lose between 300 and 400 doctors a year to suicide, and yet we aren't addressing their mental health needs, right? So, and a big part of that is financial debt. We don't think about the student loans that graduate school students, medical students, the pressures that it takes. And in fact, in the movie, what you learn is we're following this doctor and her husband, who was a lawyer, a very highly functional, had achieved a million things in life. He was battling with mental health, but because doctors and lawyers can't really admit that they have mental health issues or take meds, or it can affect their credentials in ways that it doesn't affect in other jobs, he took his life. And then many of her colleagues in the medical field were taking their lives as well. And so how do we also look at, the weight of financial debt on these people? Because people are like, oh, they're lawyers, they're doctors, they make money, we don't need to worry about their student loans. That's a huge challenge for these folks and a huge weight. And so the action at the end of our movie is how do we change legislation on student loan debt, right? And how do we provide anonymous and autonomous mental health support for folks that are in the medical profession? And so that is kind of that call to action. That is, one, you've already been impacted because you heard her story. But then two, how do we actually make change? And so it's been a lot of fun. It's been a new path for me, but yet and still it's so funny with every twist and turn of my life and my career. When you look back, it all makes sense.
So we're going to wrap up soon, and I just want to know, you have this amazing your consulting company now.
I do.
And how do you go about selecting what projects you want to work with and who you want to work with?
It's so funny. Just the other day I posted, there's this audio track on Instagram, and the woman's like, someone's asking them, well, what are you doing now? And it's like, it makes me happy. Okay, but to what end? To live a happy life, right? And that's literally how I'm approaching it, which is insane. I have been Miss Corporate, Miss Big Job like my whole career. And so in this new phase in the last 2 years since I've been independent, I look for things that inspire me. I look for no toxicity. I can't do toxicity. I will not. I am protecting my peace and my because you can't create business opportunities. You can't create stories. You can't create anything in a negative environment. You're operating out of fear. You're operating out of negative space. And I know I'm the hippie, California girl, but that being said, it's true. When you are secure within yourself and you're working with other people who are secure within themselves, there's nowhere to go but up. You're operating in abundance. And so that's the first criteria by which I choose the folks that I work with. Other than that, it is what's an exciting project. So I'm working with Candace Parker to launch her new edutainment app. It's called Go Genius. So think masterclass for middle schoolers. Like if your favorite baller or influencer or celebrity was helping you with math and an avatar of them and talking to you, like my son might enjoy math a little bit more, right? So there's Candace. My dear, dear friend just bought National Lampoon, which is an iconic comedy franchise. And so I have the honor of helping him and his partners relaunch and reimagine Lampoon for today's comedy in a beautiful way. Unscripted, scripted, features, comedy clubs. It's exciting. I have an amazing fleet management company, which is random, but I love this Black-owned, family-owned company that has built this from scratch and is creating a love of cars that nobody else had, right? So it's people, it's the project, but most importantly, it's the positivity for me.
That's so important. And I love it. And I guess I'll end with a few quick hitters. So the ideal night out for Christine Simmons is what?
The ideal night is with my girls, some great music, our own booze so we could dance all night, and definitely some tequila.
Okay. The ideal meal for Christine Simmons is...
Foodie, great. You know what? I love some gumbo. I love some fried catfish. Like my daddy's from Pensacola, Florida, and our people from Alabama, so give me some Southern Creole food any day of the week.
Amazing. And what's one project you want to work on in the next 5 years?
I'm going to give you two.
Okay.
One, potentially team ownership. And two, working with a phenomenal director to help bring her vision to life.
Amazing. And then your last question, we haven't talked about him yet, but I know somebody that keeps you centered and grounded is your son, and how important he is, Christian, in your life. He's a rising basketball star. So you're going to complete this sentence for me. Christian is going to play college basketball at blank.
I'm gonna go with his choice.
Okay.
Not my choice, UCLA. That's his choice.
Okay.
That's his choice.
You heard it here. We'll play this forward in 5 years or 6 years?
Oh my God, he's 13. Yes, 5 years. No,
we'll
he's putting in the work. I love him, and we'll see. But whether it's basketball, he also has a business mind. Like whatever he chooses to do, I'm just proud to be his mom.
Christine, keep living unapologetically, keep inspiring. We are so grateful that you are part of our program now. We're looking to continue to grow off the momentum we got this year. Keep being you. Thank you.
Greg, thank you.
Thanks.